Yes, I shaved off my mustache. I was getting way too many compliments and people hitting on me from women and men. Yikes. Yo, welcome back to the channel, boys and girls. Today is finally the day. Today I'm going to be comparing and rating all of the disc brake wheels that I've ever tested and reviewed on this channel. So I'm going to be going over the specs of all these wheels, and at the end I'm going to have a rating or a point for all of the wheels that I've had on this channel. Oh, and by the way, if you are new to this channel, my name is Patrick Lino and I am a cyclist here in the Chicagoland area who builds bikes, who does bike reviews. And if you really want to support the channel, then please leave a question down in the comments below, as later on I'm going to be having a segment called Ask Patty Anything, where you can ask me any question you want and I'll be answering some of these questions from you guys out there, the viewers. So without further ado, let's begin. Now, as you guys probably already know by now, wheels are one of the most important upgrades that you can make to your bike. I've said it time and time again, how much wheels can dramatically change the dynamics and the riding sensation of your bike. But the question becomes, how much should you spend? Can you only spend just a couple of $100s? Should you spend all the way up to $2,500 on the wheels? What's your budget like? And is it worth spending that much money on a set of wheels? And how much better of performance do you really get by spending all of this money? So that's what we're going to do in this video, guys. I'm going to be going through all my wheels. I'm going to be comparing them, giving them a point, and I'm going to be letting you know what my picks are at the end of this video. Now, I'm very fortunate to be able to make these videos, and I owe all of that due to you guys, the viewers, as well as the various brands and companies out there that are willing to work with me. Now, I have literally tested and reviewed wheels across the entire price spectrum. Everything from as cheap as VeloBuild, Winspace, Elite, and all the way up to the top end wheels from Enve. So there's going to be some surprises on this list, and of course there are going to be a few wheels that I rate that are going to be fairly obvious. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get cracking on this comparison. So the point system that I have in my evaluation of the wheels, they're going to be based on the road conditions that I personally ride in. And so where I ride at, it's mostly flat with the occasional rolling terrain and hills. I do a lot of fast group training rides. I do occasional crit races as well. I do some gravel rides, and being that I live on the lakefront, although Chicago is not one of the most windiest cities in America, there are some crosswinds that you do have to fight through from time to time when you're riding along the lakefront of Lake Michigan. And also too, for all of the road wheels that I'm going to be comparing and rating in this video, I'm using the same tire for all of them, which is the Continental GP5000s in the 25C size, with tire pressure typically anywhere between 80 to 85 PSI. Another thing I want to mention too is what this rating system is going to consist of. So it's going to be a point scale 1 through 10, 1 being bad and 10 being good. And the performance rating in this point system, the performance rating is based on things like aerodynamics, stiffness, responsiveness. The versatility rating is going to be of how versatile these wheels can be, if they can be used on rough roads, for climbing, for flat races, for crits, things like that. And then the overall value rating, that's going to be based on how much value that I think these wheels offer based on the retail price. So for example, a cheaply priced set of wheels doesn't necessarily or automatically mean that they provide a great value if the wheels ultimately suck. And more conversely, an expensive wheel may include things like a lifetime or a 5-year warranty, or maybe just having the ease of domestic serviceability, which in my opinion could raise the value of the wheel set. And number three, the wheels on this list, I've done a separate deep dive on all these videos and I've done a full review on all of them separately. So I'm not going to be spending a lot of time on each of these wheel sets. And also all these wheels have been sent to me in some capacity for review. So I don't have any hidden incentive to prefer one wheel set over the other. Okay, so now that we got all that out of the way, let's go ahead and begin this rating system comparison of these wheels, whatever you want to call it. So first and foremost, let's start with the VeloBuild Generic 38mm depth carbon wheels. Now these cost a retail price of about $350 USD, and they weigh a whopping 1,778 grams. Yikes, that's pretty heavy for a wheel of this depth. Now while VeloBuild's bike frames offer a lot of value for the price, Their wheels, not so much. Basically, I would avoid these set of wheels unless you are on an extremely tight budget and you insist on having a brand new set of wheels versus a set of used wheels. Sadly, just these wheels are just way too heavy. They use generic Novatec hubs, and good luck trying to get any sort of support from VeloBuild for a $350 wheel if something goes wrong with these wheels. Basically, just avoid these wheels if you can. Next up, let's move on to the section of gravel wheels, because this one is pretty interesting here. So the first wheels we have on this list for gravel wheels are the Yoeleo SL 35mm gravel wheels. Now these retail for about $800 USD. They weigh 1,466 grams. They have a depth of 35 millimeters depth, and the internal width on these is 22 millimeters internal. Now, I do like these wheels. I'm currently running these on my Yoeleo G23 Gravel frame, and I like these wheels a lot. I run them with 38C tubeless tires, and I've used them for gravel riding out in the countryside where it's been hilly terrain, and they're very serviceable. I don't really have anything negative to say at them, especially at the price point, $800. Next up on the gravel wheels, we have the Enve Gravel G23 wheels. These have a depth of 25 millimeters, and they cost a whopping $2,550 USD brand new. That is so much money. That's a lot of money, but they weigh 1,371 grams. Now, I've used these in rough road races, and they're practically bomb-proof. If money was no option, I would definitely prefer these over the gravel wheels, but they are just really expensive. But hey, if that's your jam, then by all means, go ahead and check these wheels out for sure. Now, moving up, let's talk about the sort of mid-depth or climbing wheels that I've been able to review on this channel. Now, there are a few of them, so please be patient. So the first of the sort of mid-depth climbing wheels are the Elite Drive 45D wheels. Now, these are 45 millimeters in depth. Retail on these is $1,189, and these weigh only 1,288 grams. These are actually the lightest wheels that I've ever tested on this channel among all of the wheels that I've reviewed. They have an internal width of 21 millimeters internal, so you probably know by now that if a wheel has an internal width of 21 millimeters, then that usually means that they're optimized for both 25 and 28C tires. Super lightweight wheels. I do like them. I've used them a lot across all of, or the majority of my frames that I've built on this channel. Next up are the FarSports Ventoux C4 EVO wheels. These are also 45 millimeters in depth, like the Elite Drive 45D wheels. Now these retail for $1,799 USD. They're a little bit heavier. These weigh 1,440 grams, and they have an internal width of 19 millimeters. What's cool about these wheels is they have the ceramic speed hub internals in them as well, and they are super easy to service. You don't even need any tools to pull off the free hub body, which can be really cool. That way it just makes servicing the wheels that much easier. Now, although these wheels, like I said, are slightly heavier than the Elite 45s, I find them to be much stiffer, much more responsive, and just provide a better sort of road sensation than the Elite wheels. These wheels are also bomb-proof like the Enve gravel wheels. I would say for a technical crit race with a lot of acceleration, a lot of surging, anything like that, I'm 100% taking the FarSports wheels. But for a bike holiday, say in like Mallorca or Tenerife, or maybe out in California, I would probably opt for the Elite 45D wheels just because they are lighter and I'm not gonna be sprinting on those or anything like that. So this is what you guys have been waiting for. I know this is what you guys really want to know about. I can't tell you how many times I've received questions down on the comments on my channels, and especially on my Instagram page as well. Everybody wants me to compare all of my aero wheels, especially with the Elite Drive 65 and the Winspace Hyper wheels, all of that. So let's go ahead and move on to the aero wheels that I've reviewed. So first and foremost, let's start with the Magene EXAR DB58 Pro wheels. These retail for $950 USD, and they weigh 1,539 grams. I actually really like these wheels, and for a wheel under $1,000, this is probably the best you're going to get. There isn't anything about them in my testing that causes any concern for me, other than maybe just the warranty or the service, because although Magene, they're really good at making electronic components like heart rate monitors, trainers, light radar, things like that, they're pretty new in the game of making wheels. So the verdict is still out on what the longevity and what the serviceability of these wheels are going to be like. But at face value, $900 for a set of decently weight wheels, you really can't go wrong with these. I've used these a lot on all types of terrain, and yeah, they just work. They're sort of your all-around sort of semi-budget wheel. Next up, let's talk about the Enve SES 5.6 wheels. So these have a staggered setup. They have a 54 millimeter depth in the front, and in the rear, it's a 63 millimeter depth wheel. The retail on these are $2,550. They are so freaking expensive. And then the weight on these is 1,611 grams. Now, if you race competitively a lot and you feel like you need to have what, you know, some people might perceive as the best of the best, and maybe you have the backing of a sponsor team that can help mitigate some of the costs, then yeah, go for the Enve wheels. I mean, these are what people respect a lot here, especially in American crit racing. So nothing offensive about them. They are stiff. They provide a really good road feel and sensation, as I mentioned, similar to the FarSports Ventoux wheels. They're just really expensive for some of us everyday riders out there who maybe aren't racing competitively day in and day out. Next up are the 2021 Winspace Hyper 65 wheels. Now these are the previous generation of Hyper wheels. These retail $1,100 USD, and they weigh 1,615 grams. Now keep in mind that all the weights here that I've provided, these are real world weights that I've measured myself here at home. So 1,615 grams. So these basically weigh identical to the Enve SES 5.6 wheels. The difference being is that with the Winspace, not only do you get a deeper depth wheel, meaning that there should be more aerodynamic, you also get ceramic bearings, and you also get carbon bladed spokes here. So just off of that alone, you probably can kind of figure out which wheel is probably going to rate higher than the other one. But let's move on to the Elite Drive 65 millimeter wheels, the 65D wheels. Now these cost $1,189 USD, and the weight on these is 1,488 grams. So as far as the aerodynamic wheels so far, the Elite Drive 65D wheels, these ones will definitely be the lightest. Now, you're gonna have to decide what's more important to you. Is comfort and lightweight, is that more important to you versus sort of stiffness and road sensation? Because you're not really going to be able to have both of those in an equal manner. And so that's what you as a rider, you have to decide how you ride, what sort of road feeling you want. But you can't go wrong with these. These ones have a 21 millimeter internal width on them, so you can easily run 25C tires as well as 28C tires, and you don't have to worry about any problems about the tires not being optimized for the width of the wheel. And last on this list, we have the 2023, or is it 2022? I don't know what it is, but it's the Lun Hyper D67 aero wheels. Now these retail for $1,300. Now these weigh 1,552 grams. Now these also have a staggered setup. They are 60 millimeters in the front, 68 millimeters in the rear. I actually recently did a video on these wheels, so I'm not going to spend too much time here. But what's cool about these new Hypers from Winspace is Winspace spent a lot of time really listening to their viewers, so they made a lot of improvements to the wheel. They've made it more compliant, whatever that means. They're not as aggressively stiff. The internal width, they're now bumped up from 19 to 21. So just like the Elite wheels, you can also run 28C tires here with no aerodynamic penalty. There's a different aero shape profile with these wheels to better handle crosswinds, all of that stuff. So kudos to Winspace on that front. So these are my favorite wheels as far as aerodynamics goes, but that may not necessarily mean that these are the best wheels as far as the point system goes. So now that I've gone through all the details of all these wheels extremely quickly, let's jump over to the chart so I can show you guys how I rated each of these wheels and how they stack up against each other. Okay. All right, so as you see on your screen right now, let's start with the VeloBuild. So basically we have in yellow, that's sort of the extremely budget friendly option of wheels. That's the VeloBuild. And then the section in blue are the gravel wheels. The section in green is the sort of mid-depth climbing sort of wheels. And then in red down below is all of the aerodynamic wheels. So as you can see with the VeloBuild, now you see we have price, weight, performance, versatility, value. So yes, the VeloBuild wheels, the standard 38 wheels, yes, they get a 10 out of 10 for price because they are so inexpensive. However, unfortunately, just all the other aspects of these wheels, they fall pretty short of the mark. So the total for the VeloBuild wheels, now this is out of a 50-point scale, they have a total of 17 points, which is not good. And like I said, I think that you'd be better off just buying a set of quality wheels on the secondhand market for $300 or $400 if that's all you can afford, versus opting for these wheels, because they're just not that good. And I don't think that if there's an issue for them, I don't think that VeloBuild is going to handle the warranty claims as well on their wheels as they would for their bike frames. Now moving on to the gravel wheels, we have the Yoeleo and the Enve wheels. So with the Yoeleo gravel wheels here, the price on these are really good. You get an 8 out of 10. You see the weight, performance, versatility, and the value coming in at a total of 36 points. So that's really good for these wheels, and these are going to be a really good all-around wheel in my opinion if you only have one set of wheels. For the Enve wheels, you see they get a 2 on price, because at $2,550 USD, that's just a lot of money to spend for a gravel wheel, especially if you don't have the ability to try and use a variety of wheels such as myself or some of the other seasoned riders out there. But they do get high marks on weight, for performance and versatility. Now with the value, where they bring a lot of value in my opinion is the fact that if you live in the United States, having them serviced domestically is a big plus, because you don't have to worry about trying to ship the wheels back to China and deal with all of that, because that can be really expensive and may not even be worth the effort or the expenses with that as well. But the Enve wheels get a total of 28 points. Moving on to the the mid-depth wheels, the climbing wheels, we have both the Elite and the FarSports. So for the Drive 45 Elite wheels, now they get a 10 out of 10 on weight because they are the lightest wheels that I have ever tested on this channel. Performance on them is really good. They're, middle of the ground versatility. You'll be able to use them for crit racing. You can use them for hills. You obviously wouldn't use them in any sort of gravel environment. But I think they provide a really good value, especially at $1,100. So they get an 8 for that, bringing them to a total of 36 points. Next up are the FarSports wheels. These are the Ventoux C4 EVO wheels. Now the price, they get a 3 because they are pricier than some of the other Chinese alternatives out there. Weight, they get an 8 out of 10. Performance, they get a 10. Like I said, these wheels perform very well. They perform just as good as the Enves and the Winspace wheels. And on crit day, these are one of the options I would take. These as well as the Winspace as well. Versatility, they get a 4 like the Elite. They're no better or no worse. Value, they're a 7. And they get 1 point less than the Elite, because even though from a performance standpoint, in my opinion and how I ride, they're better, they lose some points because they are just a little bit more expensive. And so those have a total of 32 points. Now moving on to the aerodynamic wheels. And I know, like I said, this is what you guys really want to know about. How do all of the aerodynamic wheels that I've tested on this channel, how do they all stack up against each other? And you can kind of see here pretty clearly. So the Magene wheels, you can see they get almost 7s all around. And this is the set of wheels that probably surprised me the most out of all my wheels, especially with the aerodynamic wheels. They're just an all-around really good wheel. I mean, for $900, you're getting a wheel that's 58 millimeters in depth, so they're still aero. They're relatively lightweight for what they are, so you can still climb with these wheels. I've ran 28C tires on these wheels with no problems. They just work really, really well. Obviously, they're not going to be super versatile because of the depth of the wheels, but overall, almost 7s across the board. You can't really complain. So yeah, for under $1,000, these being $900 or $950 USD, these are probably the best value in wheels under that mark. Now, there are some other wheels out there that I have not tested yet. I haven't tested the Lun. I think they're Lun 60 millimeter depth wheels, not the Hyper ones, but the Lun ones. I haven't tested those, so I can't really comment on those. But based on the videos on this channel so far, the Magene at $950 or $900, definitely the way to go if that's all you can afford. And those get a total of 32 points. Enve SES 5.6 wheels. I do like these wheels a lot. I wish I could spend more time with them. They get a performance score of 10 out of 10. Again, another super race day focus wheel. They're super stiff. I know a lot of people here in the Chicagoland who run these wheels. So despite how expensive they are, they're just a really good wheel. And if long-term use of these is important to you, being able to service them, yeah, they're going to be up there. It's just that they're so expensive. I mean, some of these wheels on this list, you could buy 2, almost 3 sets of these wheels and you would still come in about the same price as 1 set of Enve SES 5.6 wheels. So the Enve wheels get a total score of 25 points. Next up is the Winspace, the 2021 Hyper 65 wheels. Now I've used these probably the longest out of any of the other wheels on here. So my performance, they get a 9 out of 10, which is really good. The value on them also super sky high, 9 out of 10 for the value, because at $1,100 USD, you're getting a wheel that is stiff, gives you a really good road sensation out on the road. They might be a little bit more aggressively stiff compared to like an Elite wheel, but if you like that sort of ride feel as I do, then yeah, definitely the way to go. And that gives us a grand total for the Winspace 2021 Hyper 65 of 33 points. Now I've left the 2 wheels, the best ones, for last. Now these are the 2 wheels that everyone, in fact, I'm gonna even say the last 3 wheels on this list. These are the wheels that everyone has asked me about the most on my channel and on my Instagram. And this is where it gets kind of interesting, but really not at the end of the day. So Elite Drive 65D wheels. So the price on these, they get a 6. The weight on them, they get an 8, because as far as the aero wheels on this list, these are for sure by far the lightest wheels on this list. Performance, they get an 8. Versatility, they get a 4, because you know they're deeper depth, so you're not going to be using these on extreme hill climbing if you have other options. They offer really good value too. They offer value, and I gave them a rating of 8, so they get a total of 34 points. And last but not least, we have the Winspace or Lun Hyper D67 wheels. So the price on these, they do get a 5 because they are slightly more expensive than the Elite Drive 65D wheels. They get 1 point less than the Elite Drive because they are slightly heavier than the Drive 65 wheels. Performance standpoint, they get a 10 out of 10. These wheels are just as good as far as a performance sake, say like a race day wheel, and that's kind of what I'm basing it off of. From a race day wheel, 10 out of 10, they're just as good, they're just as stiff as the FarSports and the Enve SES wheels. You can't go wrong with these on race day. And as I mentioned in the previous video, you're starting to see a lot of American professional crit teams using the Winspace Hyper wheels in all of the races. So that lets you know that these wheels are able to perform at the highest level of racing in America. Versatility, they get a 4, just like the other ones. Value, they get a 9, because you are getting a lot of wheel for the price. And even though there is a little bit of a price bump compared to the previous Hyper wheels, compared to the Enve wheels, they are a fantastic deal. And I know I'm not the only other person in the YouTube space that has said that these are some of the best, if not the best wheels that they tested on their channel. So it's really no surprise that for all of the aerodynamic wheels that I've tested on this channel, that the Lun Hyper D67 come out just on top, just barely by 1 point, edging over the Elite Drive 65D wheels. Now, typically how I answer these questions when someone asks me which wheel should they choose, either the Elite Drive 65D wheels or the Hyper 65 or the Hyper D67, I basically tell them you got to figure out which camp you want to be in. If you're someone that prioritizes long endurance ride out on the road where you sort of value comfort a little bit more, then the Elite wheels are going to fit the bill on that. But if you're someone who's more about go, speed all the time, and you have crit races coming up where you're going to be doing a lot of road racing, things like that, then for sure get the Hyper D67 wheels. Even get the Hyper 65 wheels if you only have $1,100 to spend, because the previous generation Hypers, their pricing falls a little bit closer to the Elite Drive 65 wheels. But for the Elite versus Winspace debate, you can't go wrong with either wheel. You just have to figure out what's most important to you: comfort or road sensation, or I should say lightweight wheel versus something that is going to be able to feel really good out on the road. So my pick for the aerodynamic wheel is going to go, as you guys figured out by now, is the Winspace Lun D67 wheel. What surprised me in this aero category, as I mentioned before, are the Magene EXAR DB58 wheels. Best wheels under $1,000. That's going to be my pick for the sub $1,000 mark. Moving on to the best mid-depth wheel, my vote goes for the Elite Drive 45D wheels. I still think that FarSports is the superior race day wheel, but it's difficult to deny the price and the lighter weight of the Elite Drive 45D wheels. Now moving on to my pick for the best all-road wheel, meaning if you only had one wheel to use, which one would you be? Now, I'm assuming here that you're going to be running tubes with your tires, because if you were using tubeless, then it would be a nightmare having to constantly swap out different tubeless tires to accommodate the road conditions you're going to be riding in. But if you can only afford one set of wheels for both gravel and road, then my vote is going to be the Yoeleo SL 35 gravel wheels. They're reasonably priced. They're under $1,000 USD. They're 35 millimeters deep, so they're not super shallow, but they're not super aero as well. They're kind of right in the middle, but you do get a little bit of aerodynamic benefits. They have an internal width of 22 millimeters, meaning that you can still run a variety of tires with these wheels. And even though they are Novatec hubs, they are most certainly on the higher end of Novatec hubs. And like I said, I've used them in so many different conditions that they just work really, really well. So I think that's going to wrap up today's video, guys. If you have any questions related to this video or anything that I missed, please let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for all your support out there. It's really only due to you guys out there, the viewers, that has really helped me to get this channel to where it is today. And even though as of right now, I don't have a lot of followers, it's due to me making a concerted effort to be connected with you guys, either on social media or on this YouTube channel. And that I've been able to leverage to some of these brands to continue to be able to test frames, wheels, and other products on this channel. And so I'm really looking forward to 2023 to see what that has to offer. So now that I'm done rambling, as always, questions, comments, or concerns, please leave them down below. And I'm gonna check you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.